What if I told you a government project could be marked complete, fully paid, fully signed off, and still not exist? Like paying for a house that was never built, never poured, never even started. Would you call that a mistake or something much darker? Because that's exactly what happened when Thomas Massie stood up in a congressional hearing and asked Stephen Miller a question so simple it should have taken 5 seconds to answer, but instead created 143 seconds of silence. This is not a normal oversight hearing. This is a forensic confrontation where numbers collide with reality, and reality doesn't match the paperwork. 3:17 p.m. House Oversight Committee Room. What was labeled a routine review of Department of Homeland Security infrastructure spending quickly turned into something else entirely, something sharper, something dangerous. For the first 45 minutes, Stephen Miller looked exactly like a man in control: steady tone, prepared answers, clean delivery, the posture of someone who believed he had already survived every possible question. Then Thomas Massie changed the subject. "Mr. Miller, let's talk about concrete. Not policy, not immigration strategy, not politics. Concrete, the physical substance that should be sitting on the ground, visible, measurable, undeniable." And that's when the entire structure of the hearing began to crack. Massie didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse. He didn't speculate. He simply opened a binder stamped with a Treasury Department seal and placed it on the table like evidence already admitted. Then he said the number out loud. $1.4 billion allocated, contracts awarded, funds dispersed, work certified complete, and then he delivered the line that changed the room. The wall does not exist. You could feel the shift instantly. Not political tension, not partisan noise, but something colder, something factual, because this wasn't about interpretation anymore. This was about physical absence. 230 miles of border wall marked as finished in federal records, and yet when inspectors went to every single GPS coordinate, there was nothing there but open desert. Massie didn't ask a complicated question. He didn't wrap it in legal language. He looked directly at Stephen Miller and asked, "Where is 1.4 billion?" Stephen Miller leaned forward and tried to respond the way officials always respond when the ground starts to move, talking about administrative processes, phased completion, technical certifications. But the problem was the audit had already anticipated that defense, and Massie cut through it immediately. Because this wasn't just about paperwork. Massie pulled out delivery logs, every concrete truck, every shipment, every GPS-tagged entry, and the number locked into place. 847,000 cubic yards of concrete delivered, fully documented, fully paid, matching the 1.4 billion total down to the dollar. So now the question became even simpler. Not theoretical, not procedural, but physical again. If the concrete was delivered, if the money was paid, if the project was marked complete, then where is the wall? And more importantly, where is the concrete right now? And this is where the hearing stops being a discussion and starts becoming a prosecution, because Thomas Massie doesn't let the question drift. He tightens it. He narrows it. He removes every possible escape route until the only thing left is a binary choice. Answer or don't. Because the audit didn't stop at delivery logs, it went deeper, into the one place you cannot fake at scale without leaving a trail, the batch plant records, the actual manufacturing origin of every cubic yard of concrete that is supposed to exist. Every load has a signature, a mix design, a strength specification, a timestamp, a destination code, a record that says this material was created in the real world, not just written into a spreadsheet. Massie opens that section slowly, deliberately, and then he reads the number that breaks the logic of the entire system. Out of 847,000 cubic yards documented as delivered, only 340,000 cubic yards were ever manufactured. Not delayed, not misplaced, not pending, never made. Now pause and understand what that means in plain language, because this is where the abstraction disappears. Imagine ordering 847 trucks of concrete for a project, signing off that all 847 arrived, paying for all 847, certifying the job is finished, and then discovering only 340 trucks were ever filled in the first place. That is not a paperwork error. That is a contradiction of reality. That is 800 million paid for something that does not exist in any physical form. And this is the moment Thomas Massie refines the question again, sharper now, colder now, because the room has already seen the numbers and there is no way back to ambiguity. Where is 836 million that was paid for concrete that was never made? Stephen Miller opens his mouth. Nothing comes out. And right here, this is the moment that defines everything that follows, because silence in a hearing is not neutral. Silence under oath is not empty. Silence in front of documented evidence is itself a form of answer. So Massie does something that turns that silence into evidence you can measure. He takes out his phone. He opens a stopwatch, and he presses start. 10 seconds pass, and Stephen Miller's hands are flat against the table, fingers spread, knuckles tightening as if pressure alone could hold the situation together. 20 seconds, an attorney leans in, whispering, writing notes, underlining something twice, searching for a way out that doesn't exist. 30 seconds. A sound breaks the room. A pen hitting the floor, too loud, too sharp, because now everyone is aware of the same thing. This is no longer a hearing. This is a countdown. 40 seconds. The chairman reminds him he is under oath, not as a threat, but as a fact. 50 seconds. A request for recess is denied, because the question is already on the table and it is not going anywhere. 60 seconds, 1 full minute, and still no answer. And now the absence itself becomes the story. Not what Stephen Miller says, but what Stephen Miller refuses to say. Because every second that passes is another layer of confirmation that the numbers on that audit cannot be easily explained away. 70 seconds. Another voice from the committee, almost pleading now. Just answer the question. 80 seconds. Thomas Massie stands up, not aggressively, not theatrically, but closer, physically closing the distance between the question and the man who won't answer it. 90 seconds. The cameras zoom in, not on expressions, but on time, because time is now the only thing moving in a room where truth has stopped. 100 seconds, and now the room understands something that no opening statement could ever reveal. This is not about confusion. This is not about complexity. This is about refusal. 110 seconds. Stephen Miller's jaw tightens. His eyes shift. His attorneys try one last time to interrupt, but the chairman shuts it down because at this point, even the process itself has become secondary to the moment unfolding in front of everyone. 120 seconds, 2 full minutes, and now the silence is no longer awkward. It is heavy, it is visible, it is measurable, it is a decision. Thomas Massie steps closer and says it again, slower this time, clearer this time, not about policy, not about strategy, about location, about reality, about $1.4 billion that should physically exist somewhere on American soil. 130 seconds. Stephen Miller's hands begin to tremble. Not dramatically, not exaggerated, just enough for the cameras to catch, just enough for everyone in that room to understand the pressure has nowhere left to go. 140 seconds, Massie stops and begins to count. Not loudly, not angrily, but precisely, like entering evidence into a record that will not disappear. 141, 142, 143. And then he stops the clock. 2 minutes and 23 seconds. That silence is now permanent. And here is the part that matters, not for politics, not for headlines, but for something much bigger, because $4 billion is not just a number on a page. It is taxpayer money. It is public trust. It is the assumption that when the government certifies something as complete, it actually exists. So let me ask you this. If $1.4 billion can be signed off, paid out, and vanish into paperwork without a single clear answer under oath, then what exactly is being enforced and who exactly is accountable? If you think this moment matters, hit like, drop your thoughts in the comments, share this video, and subscribe because this story is not over. And the next answer, if it ever comes, will matter even more.